Hello and welcome to Top 10 Thursdays on Big Train TV. I'm your host, Alex Drain, and this week we're looking at another great game in Bethesda Big Train history, number 8 on our countdown of the top 10 greatest games in Big Train history. This week's episode is presented by the Dandy Walker Alliance, a proud partner of Big Train Baseball. Visit dandywalker.org to learn more. This week's game took place on July the 10th, 2009, and pitted the Bethesda Big Train against Youse's Maryland Orioles at Shirley Povich Field, and it ended in exciting walk-off fashion. For this week's episode, we'll be again speaking to Big Train manager Sal Colangelo, as well as former players Jarrod Parks, Jordan Beistline, and Mike Matta. It's another interesting episode on the way, so let's get started. The 2009 Bethesda Big Train entered the season hungry. After winning the Cal Ripken League title in 2005 and 2006, the team came up short in 07 and 08, losing the regular season title to the Orioles both years. As a result, the Big Train were determined to return to the mountaintop and collect a title in 2009. The Big Train's biggest strength was a strong, tight-knit group of players who came ready to play every day.
Yeah, we were definitely family, I can tell you that right now. That's all. I'm from the Southeast. We were all about family. I don't think we even argued at all.
2009 was the most memorable summer of my life. That team was so fun, and we were so close, such a tight-knit bunch. That team was incredible. I think we ended up having 5 or 6 draft guys on that team. But man, we played with so much enthusiasm. We were loose. We had a lot of fun. We had a lot of good players too. But I remember coming into that summer not really knowing what to expect. It was my first collegiate summer league. I had some friends on the team, but I seriously didn't know what to expect. But gosh, I had the time of my life out there.
It was one of my most memorable baseball seasons as a player. I've had a couple as a coach in the recent past couple years, but it's like hard to describe, like put a word, like a certain word to, or a certain phrase. But I've had a lot of guys that I reached out to still from that team. Know a couple guys still around the area from that team.
And we just had good kids, man. We had great kids that wanted to play. We didn't always have the best players. Some teams have better players, but they did everything we asked them to do. Catch the ball, throw the ball, execute fundamentals, and have a good time.
As the season rolled into the second week of July, the Big Train found themselves in a tight race atop the league standings. Entering July 10th, they held a 2-game lead over the second place Youse's Maryland Orioles, and since entering the Ripken League, the two clubs had developed a closely contested rivalry.
Yeah, they were definitely top rival. They had that stigmatism and perception that, here come the Youse's Orioles. They came in looking pretty and had the Orioles gear, had the best bats in the league, and probably had the best, as they thought, the best players in the league. And it became a friendly rivalry throughout the years. And it was definitely, when we stepped on the field, you were getting the best on the bump, and you were getting the best players in the field, and we went after it. And we definitely got the better half of them over the years. But I will tell you, Dean Albany did an amazing job with those guys. He had guys that are big leaguers, still in the big leagues, did a great job. It was a great program. But when we got on the field, you knew it was going to be a game. It was going to be close. Very seldom was it going to be a blowout.
Yeah, I'd say that probably we're good at mirror images of one another. Competitors, and just the level of play was always different between in our games compared to the other games. Not trying to downplay any of the other teams in the league, of course, but it was just a different vibe when you were at that game, whether you played in it or you're just watching it, or you're on the bench, or you're just a fan.
I remember the Orioles, and I'd heard about the Orioles coming in as like they were going to be our biggest competitor or our biggest challenger to winning a championship. And they didn't disappoint. They were really good. They always had good pitching. They always had some stud pitcher that that could shut you down. I remember they had a big, hard-throwing right-handed pitcher from Clemson that was really good. And they could always play with you. I felt like the series between the two always went back and forth, and it was always really fun to play them. They would, the crowds would be big whenever we were playing at our place. And
oh yeah, the scouts would be there. It was a packed house in the ballpark. Everybody knew who we were playing. It was the game of the week for us. And
the Big Train had a consistent starting rotation that summer, and on July the 10th, it was Seth Hester's turn to take the bump for Bethesda. And with him on the mound, you could always expect power pitching.
He reminded, like him and Brett Smalley, they were like two in the same, I think. They were big athletic guys. They didn't have your like pitcher build, I would say. They didn't look like the normal, like just.
No, they look like linebackers.
Exactly. Yeah. They look big. They look intimidating on the mound compared to, no offense, Jordan, me or you, like just, skinnier guys to where, we're going to get you with your craft rather than, pure power pitching and stuff like that.
Seth was a big right-handed arm, like Mike said, that just pounded his own balls very heavy. And I believe he had, was it a split finger or something?
Yeah, something weird.
Seth Hester is a great guy. I still keep up with him, and I know he went to Southern Miss, not to be confused with Southern Mississippi State. There's only one Mississippi State, and but yeah, Hester, awesome dude. He's huge. He's like 6'3", 6'4", big guy. He was really good. Pitched really well for us. Pitched really, really well in his career too. He's the nicest guy. He's a really soft-spoken, just country strong dude. And yeah, he could throw it really hard.
Hester ran into some trouble early in the game, surrendering 2 runs in the top of the first, and then a solo homer in the third. But he limited the damage to just 3 runs, and after that it was smooth sailing, going 7 innings with 3 runs and 5 strikeouts allowed for a quality start. While they were put behind early, the Big Train had a confident attitude about a comeback.
Well, those guys were so confident in their abilities offensively. Yeah. I remember Lukey Dookie would say, we'd be down 3 or 4 runs, coach. Ain't no worry about it. We're good.
The comeback started with Eli Boyd, who scored 2 runs, 1 in the first and 1 in the third, to trim the Oriole lead down to 3-2. Boyd starting the comeback fit in as just another part of a very successful 2009 campaign for the Michigan State Spartan, who had improved throughout his time in Bethesda.
Every year he got better and better when he came back with us. He struggled early with us. And I knew what a good kid, and I knew he would succeed and had a great year. Mm-hmm. I think I remember, if I remember correctly, one of his hits was back up the middle, and he hit it so hard it took the pitcher's head off and went right underneath his hat.
Jarrod Parks also played a major role in putting the Big Train back in the game, scoring Boyd on the run that made it 3-2, and then making one of the top web gems of the year in the top of the 6th, making a leaping catch after running far into left field from his shortstop position. Parks still remembers the play vividly.
Yeah, number one, sometime during that year, I'd been moved over to shortstop. Yeah. And I hadn't played shortstop in, I guess, a year and a half maybe. And I remember that play just kind of in my prep step, I kind of read the swing before he actually made contact, and I felt like I was going that way. And he ended up hitting off the end of the bat or getting jammed, one of the two. Just he was opening up in his swing, and he hit this little bloop out there down towards the left field line, where normally it would fall in, and normally I probably wouldn't even get to it. But I happened to get a really good jump on it, and just a lazy little bloop fly ball that I felt like, even when I jumped into the air, I felt like I was in the air longer than normal too. But just kind of jumped up, full extension, caught the ball, and I remember hitting the ground really, really hard too, because it's like I was jumping up and out, and not necessarily, like a normal dive. We were diving like straight towards the ground or parallel to the ground. It was like I had to get every bit of distance I could to make it to this ball.
In the 7th inning, Boyd caused havoc again, with the number 2 hitter getting on, and then it was Danny Steenstra who cranked an RBI double to tie the game at 3. An example of an RBI producer producing RBIs.
Hit, 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 hit. Every time at the plate. Right in the 4-hole. Hit. Right in the
4-hole. Yep. Back door.
I think he had more singles in his career in Bethesda. I think he played with, was it 2 years? Maybe, 2 for sure. But all he did is singles right over the top second baseman's head. I mean, he was a natural. I mean, just hit.
Danny was a trip. He was, I feel like he's Mr. Big Train. I feel like he was there like 5 different years.
Yeah.
The dude always hit in the middle of the lineup. Didn't have a ton of power, and you couldn't, you never really thought he was a guy that, I don't know, that just had this crazy bat speed, but the dude never struck out.
When they stepped to the plate, you knew that, even if we, we had a chance. When those guys were coming up, you're not even fretting. Just they had that confidence that not a lot of people, that X factor, that people talk about, and that's the type of thing. When they stepped into the box, they had the utmost confidence in themselves.
With the game knotted up at 3 apiece, it turned into a battle of the bullpens. On this night, the Big Train needed only one arm out of their pen, a heroic effort from Noland Rudman, who entered in the 8th and started a 4-inning relief performance.
He always pitched in big moments. He was a dude, I think he might have been our first guy out of the pen every time, every big game. He was really good. Whenever he came out of the pen, it was almost like he gave us a little boost.
Use this word lightly, but he was like that cocky, confident type of guy when he got out there. You knew what you're going to get, and the hitters knew what they're going to get, but it's, if you can hit it, then hit it, but you're probably not going to,
So Nolan, if I remember, he was straight over the top. It was firm. And when he worked ahead, he was extremely unhittable.
Nolan must have been working ahead that night because he was unhittable. He threw 4 no-hit relief innings, collecting 6 strikeouts in the process to keep the Orioles' offense at bay. By the bottom of the 11th inning, the teams were desperate to break the deadlock, and it began for Bethesda with Connor Burnett getting on base to start the frame.
Connor hit leadoff for us. He was a really good hitter. He played at San Francisco. He could juice the ball in the gaps, and he was, he had some speed to play with it. I think he played center field for us. And
after Boyd sacrifice bunted to move Burnett to second, the Orioles intentionally walked both Steenstra and Parks to load the bases and set up a double play opportunity. Unfortunately, the Ripken League's best hitter by average was waiting in the batter's box, Luke Atkins.
Yeah, he was a dude, very confident. He went to the plate with an idea on how to hit.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell he's been taught at a young age. His approach was ridiculous. He knew the ball he was going to hit and drive. He knew where he was going to hit it.
But I mean, even Luke would come up to me and ask me, hey, what do you think about this pitcher? What do you see? Because he knows that I knew what the tendencies that the pitchers were doing.
Luke was really good. Luke was a guy that played with me at Mississippi State, and he had one of the sweetest swings out there. But it I loved playing with him. He was a roommate of mine, and he was awesome to be with. But yeah, he had a knack too for putting the barrel in the right spot. And
the .350 hitting Atkins spanked a ball clear over the right fielder's head, and Burnett trotted home to score the game-winning run. The Big Train walked it off and won 4-3, moving 3 games clear of the Orioles. That lead proved decisive, and the Big Train finished the season 31-10, claiming the league regular season championship, their first since 2006, and then won the league championship series, meaning they had captured both the regular season and postseason Ripken League title outright for the first time in franchise history. Looking back, the team's memory still holds significance to that group of players and its coach.
We got after it, I can tell you that right now. I mean, we scrapped it out. I mean, we hated people. I mean, but we got the job done. We won those championships, I can tell you that.
Might have not had
looking at those rings.
Yeah, might have not had big name players, but we had big time players.
Right?
Guys that were in for the moments and whatnot.
And I went into it not knowing what to expect at all, and it's crazy Like I still remember leaving that first summer and almost felt like I didn't want this to end. And like flying back and getting picked up from the airport, it was almost like a depressing feeling leaving there.
Moreover, for manager Sal Colangelo, that 2009 team still ranks among the best he's ever coached in his time in Bethesda.
It's definitely top three, if not top. I mean, arguably, it could be one, it could be two, it could be three. I mean, the 2011 season obviously was pretty special as well. But this one definitely, offensively, I think we had 5 or 6 guys at the time hit over 300 that year, with the Jarrod and Luke and Eli and Connor. I mean, all the 5, I think it was 5, maybe 6. Offensively and pitching wise, my God, we didn't have any superstars. We had guys that got outs. And just, yeah, it definitely is one of the better teams. That 11 and probably, what was it, 2 years ago, we were pretty good. It just varies. But as far as the top team that wanting to come to play every day and not happen to listen to, oh, it's on the only summer ball, or coach, can I have the day off or whatever, there was no excuses from this group. Thinking what we got coming in now and how good and bigger and stronger the kids are, but just thinking about Danny and Eli and Luke, man, and then JP. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's some good talent right there, and not just that, they could hit, boy. Jeez.
Yeah. That concludes this week's edition of Top 10 Thursdays on Big Train TV. I want to thank our guests for joining us and giving their insight on this week's game, and look forward to next week's episode. If you're a recent fan, you may remember it because it's from 2018. Until then, keep your eyes peeled for more great content on Big Train TV, and we'll see you next week.
Hi, Big Train fans. So we're starting up the Bethesda Community Baseball Club again to run the Big Train baseball at Shirley Povich Field. We got to do a little fundraising. So we got a special treat for you. The first 100 people who send $100 to our Bethesda Community Baseball Club by going to www.bigtrain.org and pushing the donate button, get this cool mask. You know you want this mask. You don't want to go out this summer without the Big Train mask. So if you could go to www.bigtrain.org, hit the donate button, you can get the first 100 people get a mask who give $100 or more. You can buy a season pass for 2021, and you can even buy seat plaques at Povich Field, so your family can be part of Povich Field. So thank you from the Bethesda Community Baseball Club for any help you can give us to raise these startup funds to make sure we can bring the fun back to Povich Field in 2021. Thank you.
Every kid has someone, a writer, an artist, a musician, or an athlete that you just find sort of a soulful connection to that's ineffable. You can't quite explain it, but that was Clemente for me. So, and this was before I knew not just what a cool baseball player he was, but what a fabulous human being he was.